Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining ActiGraph today. We do appreciate you spending just a few minutes with us to talk about something that we're very excited about, our new study admin tool, and how that helps with logistics support for clinical trials. My name is Jeremy Wyatt. I am the Vice President of Software Engineering at ActiGraph, and we do appreciate you tuning in. We did hold a webinar about 2 weeks ago on a similar subject, but it was more targeted towards our research partners. Today's content will be primarily targeted towards our clinical trials and pharmaceutical drug trials partners, and so you'll see some custom content just focused primarily on that today, but there will be some overlap. So if you attended 2 weeks ago, you will see some similarities in the webinar, so thank you for your patience in that regard. We always start our webinars with this slide just so everyone knows how to send in questions. There's a small control panel that you've obviously seen if you're seeing this webinar. You can just click that control panel and click on the questions and type in a question at any time. Since I am primarily the only person, well, I am the only person presenting this morning or this afternoon, I will be taking those questions myself, and so we'll pause periodically today throughout the webinar just to allow time to answer those questions either verbally or typing those back. And if we don't get to those by the end of the webinar, I'll be sure and address them in email at a later time. Quick outline of what we're going to cover today. I'll just go over a quick background of ActiGraph for our friends who are new to ActiGraph or actigraphy. Talk a little bit about our hardware and the measurements that we provide. Then we'll go into some logistics challenges, which is sort of the primary topic that I'd like to cover today. Then we'll talk about our study admin tool, which we feel is a great solution to some of those logistical challenges that our partners have been facing as of late. Then we'll talk a little bit about data interpretation. That's a real trendy conversation that I've been personally having lately. And we'll talk about how data is interpreted. We'll talk a little bit about our API, the programming interface to our study admin, and why that might be beneficial to this audience. Then we'll get into mobile data capture and how that can benefit you, and then talk about what's coming soon with ActiGraph. We've been very busy and are looking forward to a couple of new products and a few updates, and so we'll talk some briefly about that as well. Just quick background for our new folks. ActiGraph, the company, was founded in 2004. Our products have actually been around longer. Our first publication was in the early 90s, actually, maybe even late 80s. So we've been around for many, many years and have become essentially experts in physical activity monitoring. We are the global leader in that field and providing objective measurement solutions for our customers. Historically, we have been primarily involved in funded research studies, and you'll see at the bottom that's primarily our customers as of today are these funded research partners that have used our device to study large multi-site, multi-year studies, looking at different trends and different disease states and actually different ways to interpret accelerometry data as an objective measure of physical activity. So that's where this strong independent validation, the fourth bullet, comes from. Is our partners who have used our device for years and years to essentially validate outcomes using accelerometry. And we're fortunate to know these people and have great partnerships in place with them. Just a quick overview of our hardware. Many of you have seen our GT3X series of devices. This is a picture of one here, and the one that we sell currently is our GT3X BT, or Bluetooth device. And that device has a 3-axis accelerometer, and it records ambient light as well. Get a lot of questions about water resistance. It is water resistant to 3 meters. It is Bluetooth enabled, Bluetooth LE or 4.0 specifically. That allows us to do some remote uploads using iOS and Android applications, and we'll talk about that today. The device captures data 30 times per second. That's a generalized statement. It can actually capture data, accelerometry data at 100 hertz if the setting is selected, so 100 times per second. It communicates with the PC over a USB connection. It's kind of a large wristwatch type device, and about 18 days on a battery life if you're using it in this clinical trials application that we're going to talk about today. For our research partners, the typical battery life is approaching 30 days just because of the configuration, and I'm happy to answer questions about that in a bit. So I always get questions about what does this device measure. So I just put this slide together just to kind of give you some general ideas of basic measurements. The device can measure caloric burn, that's over basal metabolic rate. It can measure step count. It can measure ambient light. It can measure sleep efficiency. And all of these measurements are derived from validation publications that have been done using our device that were put together to study how accelerometry can be used to measure these outputs, except ambient light. That's more of a sensor. But some more advanced measurements that the device is capable of providing include consecutive bouts of activity. So this is sort of a CDC measure that says you need 30 minutes of consecutive activity. We can measure that and give it as an output. We can also provide compliancy time information about wear time. How long was the device worn, and was it worn as prescribed? Information about breaks in sedentary time, and heart rate information if you're using a polar Bluetooth heart strap, and much more. I don't have time to go into today, but you get the general idea. So our research partners who we've worked with for many years have primarily used our Actilife software, and I just wanted one slide to talk about our Actilife software because it provides some context for our study admin software that we'll talk about today. But our Actilife software was derived from validation papers, so there are literally thousands of validation papers that have been written that define things like cut points and algorithms for calculating kilocalories using our device. And so what we have done over the past 10 years or so is we've taken these validation papers and we've coded them, if you will, into software. And so we've made that software available. It's called Actilife. This is Actilife 6 that I'm showing here. And you can see all of these algorithms are available literally by name in the software. So I can go in and, for instance, select the Choi wear time validation algorithm, and it applies the settings that we derived from the document that was written. And so we, ActiGraph, simply provide hardware and interpretation of validation outcomes that have been produced using our hardware. We don't make any claim to be any expert on, physical activity, or on kilocalorie measurements using our device. We rely on third-party validation to do that and simply make that available through our tool. And so because of that, Actilife 6 is really a complicated application, if you will. It's a detailed application that allows our research friends to dig into the data with a lot of resolution, a lot of detail, customized settings for the device, customized endpoints, and so there's a lot available in that software. And so we'll talk about why that doesn't make a lot of sense for a clinical trial in just a few minutes. So speaking of clinical trials, over the past 3 years, clinical trials has really grown for us. We've been contacted numerous times, and in fact have been used in over a dozen trials in the past 3 years because of this need for an objective measure of physical activity in a study. Clinical trials face many challenges, including objectivity of the data they're collecting, but also patient satisfaction and subject recruitment. It costs a lot of money if you lose subjects, and so it's important to be able to be accurate when you're capturing this data and be transparent with your patient. can see up front that they're not as active as they should be for this trial, then it helps eliminate them early and helps get new patients in quicker. But the protocol for clinical trials is a little bit different. It's sort of a step-by-step process. The protocol itself is developed for a drug trial. So the pharma group develops with a CRO or with a partner the protocol that they're going to follow for this particular drug. Then the data is collected, and I'm simplifying a bit, and then the data is analyzed. So essentially it's a three-phase process. But what I want to point out today is that the data collection itself must be done correctly and consistently. In particular, with our device or with any physical activity measuring device, or the analytics at the end will be difficult and convoluted. And so that theme will run through this presentation today. So to segue into that, I want to pose the question, what are the barriers to successful, consistent actigraphy data collection, in particular for a drug trial application? I would argue that it is primarily logistics. And let me explain what I mean by that. For a drug trial, sometimes we're involved in a study that's maybe 1 or 2 sites in the United States, but many times a study is multiple sites in multiple countries, and there is one clinical study coordinator or CRO that's handling that particular study. And so they're trying to manage multiple sites. And why is that difficult? Well, with our device in particular, each site has to set up their device consistently. This is a screenshot from Actilife, and so you can see that there are just tons of settings for a particular device. And so those settings have to be set the same for every single subject at every single site. Otherwise, the data is not comparable, and you can't interpret it at the end. There's also bulk software licensing problems. So if you've got a client application, such as our Actilife application, you have to license that properly. And each site has to have a specific license key, and that has to be managed, and there's maintenance involved with that. And so that's a logistical problem, is setting that up. On-site training for all the sites. I've attended myself numerous investigator meetings in which I've actually trained participants for a multi-country study, and I see that there are tons of vendors there. I'm just one of maybe 5 or 6, and so there's on-site training that has to happen for these individuals at these sites, and that's a logistical challenge. And then if you're dealing with a device like ours or a body scanner or anything that collects data, how do you amalgamate that data? Do you collect it periodically? Do you collect it post hoc? Which mechanism do you use? And so I put this small drawing together to illustrate that data could be transferred over some FTP mechanism or email or use Dropbox, or there are many options for capturing that data. And how do you do that? That's a challenge. And then you've got the added burden, the added subject burden, right? So you've got a subject coming into a site for a visit, and that site will consist of the subject coming in, filling out some questionnaire, getting an activity monitor, collecting a specimen and recording that, collecting anthropometrics or biometrics, and then the subject leaves. Some variation of this cycle has to happen for each subject at each site. And you'll notice that the activity monitor is just one of those numerous things that occur. And so there could be, if you've got all these things to worry about, device settings and inventory, how do you as a coordinator make sure that all the sites are doing these things consistently? So let's get into that in a moment. But just a couple of other needs that we have seen that sort of go in parallel with these things. There is no data visibility during the data collection process for anything, really. Essentially, a subject comes in and they're assigned some task or some journal that they're given, or even an activity monitor. And in our case, if you want to see the data that's been collected by our monitor, they have to mail the monitor back, and the subject must visit the site and give that monitor to the site coordinator for them to collect that data. But there's no way for them to upload that data remotely or give any real-time feedback to the clinic or to the CRO or to the pharma company as data collection progresses. And why is that an issue? Well, if you're identifying things that during a screening period that would nullify or invalidate this subject's availability or not availability, but candidacy for this study, you need to know that sooner than later, and so that's a cost factor. There's also a manual process for managing our device inventory. So right now, if you're using Actilife in the field as a researcher, you've got to physically manage that device inventory using pen and paper or an Excel sheet. And so that's a challenge. And there are costs associated with all of these challenges. You know, there's travel for training, there's hiring of an IT team to manage the computers that are at each site. There are servers and systems that have to be employed to manage the download and collection of that data or the hosting of that data, and then there's software development, and I can go on, but we've seen it numerous times. My question is, how can this be simplified? How, and again, I mean, I work for ActiGraph, so specifically, if you are using our product, how can we help you simplify this? We believe that if you choose to employ actigraphy in your study, a better solution is our Study Admin web portal. This is a brand new product that we've introduced within the past year and a half, but it's really come to speed in the past 8 months and has been used extensively in numerous clinical trials. So what is it? It's a cloud-based solution that allows you to monitor and collect data from multiple sites, from multiple subjects remotely. It is 21 CFR compliant. The data is always backed up because it is a cloud solution, and there are no software updates to manage. There are no licensing issues to deal with. We do leverage Amazon Web Services to host this data, and they've been great partners and have worked great with us. What we've added recently that I'll get into today, in fact it was part of the title of this webinar, is that we now support mobile uploads with our Study Admin portal. So as I mentioned previously, historically with Actilife there has been no way to collect data in the field from a subject. We have heard over and over again that would be beneficial, and so we've added this new ability to employ mobile uploads in the field to give near real-time feedback to our CROs and our clinical managers. So how do you use the Study Admin? I want to talk a little bit about that today. Interestingly enough, I've had this question come up a few times. How do I create a study? Well, right now, in order for ActiGraph to support these studies in the best way we know how, we can't just give open access to create a study, and so you do have to contact us to create an account in a study. So you would do that. You can contact us directly through our sales channel. We'll create a study, and we'll help you set up your sites and your coordinators. That's sort of a one-time setup that we help you manage right now. So if you've got 10 sites, we would help you name those sites and set them up, and the email addresses of the people at those various sites who are going to be collecting data from these participants. Then we would work with you to select the algorithms for your data views. So the Study Admin portal is a logistics management tool, but it also provides post-processed outcomes, the same post-processed outcomes that are available in Actilife without the options. So for instance, if you say, I would love to see the cut points or the breakdown of physical activity of each subject, we work with you early in the trial to identify which cut point set you'd like to use. And we place that in the tool, and each upload is automatically processed using those algorithms to give you those outcomes. Now they're certainly not set in stone. You can change it at a later time, but we work with you up front to help identify the population-specific algorithms that you might want to implement. Then we work with you to define the subject parameters and restrictions. This is important because this is the page or the subject assignment screen that each site coordinator will have available to them each time a subject comes in for a visit. And so what we want to do is make sure that we're collecting the right amount of data, the right data for each subject in the right order, in the right way. And so we help you with things like You want a subject identifier. Do you want that subject identifier to be 6 digits long? Do you want any alphanumeric characters? Once we've customized that, we have built-in validation to help prevent errors in coding that. So if I've got a site coordinator and they mistype a number, we give them an error or a message immediately. So that's part of what we help you set up. Then we ship the devices for you, and then we train the sites. And so this is an interesting note. I personally train sites on, or during investigator meetings, on how to use our tool. It's very simple to use and set up, but I do that. Very soon we're going to incorporate training into our study admin so that you have visibility of whether or not your sites have been trained using a very consistent regimen. And so rather than bombard you with text, let me just begin to show you what the study admin tool looks like. This is a screenshot from our study dashboard. And so what you can see from this is that you have visibility of your study overview. You can see the name of the subject. You can see the number of subjects in the study, recent uploads, recent device assignments. You can also manage your sites. So down here at the bottom, I've got a list of all my sites that are involved. This is just a small 3-site study. The name of the site, any alerts that I need to be aware of, if there was an issue, if a device was RMA'd, or if there are any problems that have come about. As I mentioned in the last slide, very soon we'll see in this list your training. Has this site gone through their training regimen that I've assigned to them through the study portal? And in fact, they cannot use the study portal until they finish their training. That's what's coming soon. So you'll see all that here with your overview page. Data export. So when I'm finished and I need to get my data out into my clinical data management system, Oracle Clinical or Medidata, how do I get that and download it and put it in there? There's a custom export that's customized just for your particular study. And I mentioned the alerts already, but you can see those immediately. Quick access to the study subjects. And so for each site, I, as the study coordinator, need to be able to drill down and see each subject that has been recruited and find out information about those subjects. Or if I'm at a particular site, I want to look at those subjects that are part of my site and see information about them. What does that look like? Here's a screenshot. And as you can see, I've got a list of subjects. I see the data collection status. Collecting means that they have a device. The serial number is below the device, so I have immediate inventory tracking for all of my devices. Complete means that I've completed the data collection. That person is done. I've got a column that shows the number of uploads that happened during that duration. These uploads might have come in from, might have been visits in, where they came into the clinical site or where they connected their mobile uploads. That's the number of uploads. The days of data, so if I'm expecting 7 days and I see 20 here, maybe I forgot to stop collection on that device. So just a quick overview of that information, and then each subject has their own specific page that, as I mentioned earlier, shows those outcomes that we talked about. And so the post-processed outcomes are available at the click of a button. And I'd like to point out that each of these outcomes are available in our Actilife, our advanced research tool, but we've just pared them down to make them simple in our web-based tool. And so, I've got things like daily details for each subject, or moderate to vigorous physical activity details, wear time validation, bouts of activity, sleep details. And so I can click and see that sort of information at any time during the collection process. Just a quick view of a couple of those screens that you would see if you drill down into that. The top one there is the moderate to vigorous physical activity view, so I can see that data. I can share that with my clinical coordinator. I can share that with my medical lead if they're part of my study admin system. Ask questions whether or not this person should be eliminated from the trial. I can see all that at the click of a button. I don't have to wait for that data. It's right there. Sleep details. I can see sleep efficiency if they're wearing the device on their wrist during their sleeping periods. And so I did have a quick screenshot here that just sort of shows some of that information. And so this is subject 74 that we were looking at in the slide. And yeah, I can see I've got interactive graphs here. I can view the MVPA versus the non-wear time. So the blue bar in this case is how long did they wear the device for that day, and the magenta is how much of that time was spent at a moderate activity level. So you can see that the map is interactive. Bouts of activity. So for each day, how many bouts of activity did this person exhibit? And so just wanted to show that briefly to give you an idea of what that looks like. So I'll pause for a minute and ask and allow some questions or take some questions if we have any before we get into the next topic, which will be data interpretation. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and shoot those to me now, and I'll do my best to answer them. Had one question about how secure is the web portal, the cloud solution, and I understand that the IRBs involved in research are sticklers for confidentiality, as Dr. Bassett's mentioned here in the question. It's a secure web portal. The data is encrypted in transmission, and so that we use the HTTPS 128-bit protocol to transmit data back and forth from the device to the web portal for storage, and then everything is password protected in that store. And we have been audited by a number of pharmaceutical drug trials who also look on that as very important. And so we feel confident in the security of the data. And just incidentally, I've come to learn this term, PII, personal identifiable information. We don't collect any PII as part of this, as part of a trial. Essentially, the information we collect is limited to things like date of birth, of course, physical activity information as it comes off the device, and those fields are customizable. And so, if you, as the pharma rep or as the researcher, only want to collect this person's subject ID and nothing else, we can do that. We can set the system up to collect nothing but that, and so that's always helpful. So a question from Karen that says, is there any minimal sample size that is acceptable for a study with ActiGraph? Karen, right now, I think that we don't have any set limits on that. We do have a minimum setup fee that is required with our study admin portal, and so we've got a couple of agreements. We have you can buy devices or you can lease devices, and so depending on your budget, it may exclude you from that, but you need to contact our sales group to get those numbers. I don't have them available right now. Just send an email to sales@theactigraph.com or sales@actigraphcorp.com, and they'll help you with that question immediately. So Claudia is asking, would the admin be available at each site, or you as the coordinator, would you receive files through the cloud and create the study admin? So I want to make sure I understand that question, Claudia. You're asking, would the admin be available? So yes. So the portal itself is very similar to any web-based email that you've used. I'm sure most people here have used Gmail or Hotmail. You go to a web portal, you type in a username and a password, and you see, with email, you see your email. With the study admin, you see your subjects. And if you are a site coordinator, you would only see subjects that are associated with your site. If you are a study coordinator, a higher level, and I'll show the hierarchy in a moment, you would see all of your sites and all of your subjects. And so you can also share that data if you're a study coordinator. So you have that visibility anywhere, anytime. Excuse me. Okay, we had a question from Amanda. How does the battery life differ between clinical and research fields? That's a great question, Amanda. So right now, with our device, I mentioned early on, you can collect data at up to 100 hertz. So you can literally sample the accelerometer on our device at 100 hertz. In a research application, we basically store that data on the device in its rawest format. And when you're using Actilife, we download that data and process that data into outcomes, into 60-second epics or 10-second epics inside the Actilife application. With our clinical partners and with the study admin, we actually do that processing on the device. And so the data that you're downloading off of our device is not the raw 100 hertz data. It's actually the 60-second epic data. And we chose to do that for a number of reasons. The primary reason is the size of the data being downloaded. It would take a long time to upload to our study admin a large raw data file, which can approach 2 gigabytes for a 2-week study. To upload that data and then process it and provide the outcomes, it was much more efficient to provide 60-second data on the device and optimize the transfer rates. Also, most of the research validation that has been done using our device has been done using 60-second epics. And so for us, initially, it made sense to provide the post-processed outcomes on the device. Well, the negative impact of that is that it reduces the battery life because we have to do the processing on the fly on the device. And so, great question. A question from Barry: how much do we charge to set up the web portal? I don't know specifically, Barry. That's a question for our sales group, and they're happy to answer that. And I can even look into it for you after the webinar, but I don't know the specific numbers there. Great questions, and please keep those questions coming, and I'll do my best to answer those as we move forward. Moving into the next section here. Data interpretation. What does this mean? We've had a lot of questions about, okay, you collect physical activity data. Our clinical trials partners are learning more about that, and they're interested in using this data, but they don't fully understand what this data means or how it can impact their study. So how do we bridge that gap? How do I, as a hardware software vendor, provide benefit to our clinical trial friends who are trying to understand how this data applies to their specific population group? Well, ActiGraph is fortunate enough to be partnered with many subject matter experts in the field. And so over the years, we've developed relationships with large institutions who have researched specific disease states or population groups. And we provide a mechanism to connect you to those subject matter experts after we've had a chance to review your study. So just as an example, there might be a dozen different disease states that we've been involved in, and this is just a handful. Well, once we identify yours, we put you in contact with the institution and the specific person who did the research on that particular disease state. And that's provided as a contract vehicle through ActiGraph. And so initially, when you're getting ready to start your protocol, we encourage you to contact us early so that we can identify the key person that you need to speak with at the correct institution or organization and put you in touch with them and help you understand how they can help you interpret your data. And so how do I take that further? Okay, now that I've identified somebody, say, at University of College London who is an expert in physical activity, how do I connect them? Well, primarily what we found is that the person at that college has used Actilife, our research software that I've spoken about numerous times today. They're intimately familiar with that tool, and so as I mentioned, that tool is a very detailed, low-level tool, and they have some familiarity with that. And you, as the clinical trial organizer, you have used the study admin for logistics and data collection. Well, recently we have connected these two. So if you identify a partner, going back to my previous example at University of College London, and you say, I'd like you to look at my data and help me interpret that, how can you help me do that? Well, here's a list of subjects in your study admin. In Actilife, you have the same exact view available now in our Studies tab. So you click on the Studies tab, you provide that subject matter expert with their own login, and they see those subjects, and they can download data and do their own statistical processing with those subjects on the fly. Here's a full screen view of that in our Actilife tool. And so this is brand new. We just released it about 2 weeks ago, and have had some great feedback about how it's going to be used. And so we're looking forward to seeing how these partnerships evolve. And just a quick note, I mentioned the hierarchy of the study admin, and how do these study viewers or how do these research partners fall into that. So the study coordinator is the primary on the study, and they can view all sites and all data. They can modify that data as well by downloading it or adding more users or recruiting more users. The sites themselves, they can recruit subjects just for their particular site. This new study viewer who ties in through our Actilife view is a read-only view. They can't add subjects. They can only download and see that data. And so just to kind of show you how they fall into that. But I think I might have misspoke. The data is not modifiable at all in the system. By read-only versus not read-only, I just mean study viewers cannot add more subjects or do anything to that data. They can only see the data and download it, and only the data that you give them permission to view. So anyway, that's our data interpretation spiel, and I wanted to just cover that. A lot of people don't know we offer that service as part of our study admin system. And so if there are any questions about that, you can send them in. I'm happy to answer them at the end of this presentation or anytime afterward. But that's a great new tool we're excited about. But jumping back quickly to the study admin, I wanted to do a quick overview of how a device is assigned, because invariably I'll get questions about, well, you talked about how easy it was, but what does that look like? What software do we need? And so I didn't mention this yet, but each computer or each site that is recruiting a patient, that's placing a device on a patient, must install a small application. It's about 6 megabytes. It's called ActiSync. That application gets installed on their Windows PC machine. And yes, I'll get this question, does it run on a Mac? Not yet. It will by the end of the year. It will run flawlessly in Parallels if you're running a Mac. Once that application is installed, that application basically just sits on your computer looking for a device to be connected. And so someone comes into a clinic to get an activity monitor. The activity monitor is connected. It's connected to the computer. ActiSync recognizes that device and prompts the study coordinator, the site coordinator, with just one of two options. Do you want to assign this device to a subject now, or do you want to wait? And so, of course, they choose to assign the device, and then the web portal automatically loads and presents them with the information that they need to type in. And so you, as the study coordinator, have already configured this page. So each person in the study will see the same page and will enter the same type of information for each subject. And so once they type this information in and click Assign Device to New Subject, you can see in this screenshot on the right side is the web side. This is what they would see in their web browser. It would show the process of the setting up of that device, and on the left side is the ActiSync application, which is sort of running in the background on their computer. And so it is basically setting that device up, creating a new user in the study admin system. And then when that's finished, they basically see, a green status. Okay, go ahead and place the device on the user, and it shows them where to place that device. And of course, they have already gone through the training at this point, and they understand how to do that. And so anyway, so you can see how simple that is. It's just a two-step process, really. So the subject wears the device for the protocol prescribed time, and then when they come back into the lab or come back into the clinic for you to get their device back, it's basically the same process. You take the device from them, you reconnect it to that same PC or some PC that's running the ActiSync application, and ActiSync will immediately recognize that this device belongs to this person, it belongs to this organization, and to this study, and it will begin to upload that data to the study admin system. You allow the upload to be complete, and then you instantly view the results of that upload. And so we've already looked at what those results look like, but you would essentially get that information immediately. And so I've done this before, and of course it's always risky to do a demo upload, right? But I'll go ahead and do one of those in this for this webinar. So I've got a device here that I've been wearing for a couple of days, and I'll plug it in, and you can see that ActiSync immediately recognizes it excuse me, and begins to upload that data. And so once that data upload is complete, ActiSync will tell you that it's about to launch your browser, and then of course it will launch your browser. And it will load the subject data. And this is just a subject that I started a couple of days ago. But you can see their data is being uploaded, and it goes through the process of what it's doing. And then once it finishes that process, it basically gives you a notification that says, okay, I'm done. And so after it finishes that, it'll refresh the page, and then you can immediately go in and view that data. And so we'll just wait on it to complete. Now, depending on how much data has been uploaded, this could take up to 60 seconds to complete, but typically it's fairly fast. So here's this subject, this demo subject that I put together. Here's just a bar graph of their activity counts. This is customizable, by the way. If you decide for your study you just want to see steps here, we can show steps. But I can click on any of these buttons, and I can see, moderate to vigorous physical activity for each day. And so it's immediately available after the ingestion is complete. So that was just a quick demo I wanted to show. Next topic I want to cover real quick is our API access. A lot of our partners don't know this is available, and so just wanted to mention that. So as you're collecting data, as you're creating users, you are essentially adding to your private study admin database. You're adding new users, you're adding associated data to each user. We make available an API that allows you to access that data from your application. And so that allows you to download the data and format it in your own way using some scheduled cron job or some web service that you've generated that gets triggered nightly or once every 2 weeks, or however often you want that to happen. From that API, you can also create new users. So if you're doing a batch user thing, we're actually just starting on that now. You'll be able to create users through the API individually. You can't upload a batch of users through there yet, but you can generate a new user. You can download raw or processed data endpoints. So if you just want to get the 60-second epic data once a day, your application can pull that through the API. Or if you're just interested in looking at total step counts for each subject per day, you can request that as well. So why do I give an API directly to our study admin and not directly to our device? I get that question a lot. And the answer is numerous, really. There are so many caveats to interacting with one of our devices. There's the idea of understanding how the settings are set up. There's the USB communication protocol. There's the firmware management. The study admin automatically updates firmware on your devices when that's necessary. There's the user management aspect. So how do I manage the users that are using my device? And we have literally spent years learning how to talk to our hardware and how to make it work in a way that benefits you. And so we're basically giving you that through the study admin. The API allows you just to get your raw endpoints. If we gave access directly to the device and gave an API to it and opened it up, our support channels would be busy nonstop just supporting things like, how do I turn Bluetooth on and off properly? Or I couldn't get this to do it correctly. And so anyway, that was just something I wanted to mention here. And then also error tracking in study admin, you get that ability to download that through the API. You don't have to worry about tracking errors in your own application. I've got one more section we're going to cover. Before I do, I want to pause one more time for questions and see if I can answer those. Let's see. Jeff asks, can a device be associated with two study subjects, that is, the same human in two different studies? Yes, it can. Jeff, that would imply that you had two different studies that you were involved in, and so yes, one person can manage multiple studies, and the same person can be involved in both of those studies. They would obviously have two different subject IDs associated with them. Amanda is asking for placement of the device. Would waist placement influence the results for obese or overweight individuals? Amanda, that's a great question, and I would actually probably put you directly in contact with some of our experts who have dealt with obese individuals and the placement of devices. But it can be an issue, but we do provide a system to help attach those that data. Those devices to those individuals in the best way possible. Let's see. Had a question from Barry. Who runs the data through Actilife to produce the endpoints that are sent to the sponsor database? So we don't, Barry, we don't run any data through Actilife itself. The Actilife itself is itself a standalone application, and so if we're connecting the sponsor to our subject matter expert, then we allow the subject matter expert to handle that. So they would download it into their own local computer and then process that data or do whatever they need to do with that after they've signed NDAs and all that with the sponsor. And then I had a quick question about what does API stand for? Application Programming Interface. And so just a way to interact with our device programmatically, essentially. Okay, keep those questions coming. I didn't answer all of them, but please keep those coming, and I'll get to those at the end. The next topic that I wanted to cover today is our new Study Admin mobile uploads. This is brand new also for our Study Admin system, and what we've done is we've released an application for iOS and Android that allows you to sync your devices remotely in the field to the Study Admin. So basically, if you're a subject, you're participating in a study, you can be assigned you can either be assigned a mobile device, or you can use your own mobile device, and through that mobile device, you can upload data from your Bluetooth-enabled activity monitor to the Study Admin, thereby providing real-time feedback to the Study Your Site coordinators about your data, and also seeing that data yourself if that's part of the protocol. These are just some screenshots of what the app looks like. When you start the app, you have to enter a PIN number that associates you with a token on our system that ensures security and makes sure that you are the actual correct person that should be associated with that study. Then once you're set up, you can sync that data by just tapping the sync button, and you get a status of that sync process, and when you're done, it will show you that. So I'm going to be daring again, and I'm going to actually do an upload to sort of illustrate how this works. So let me just pull up, this is the subject that we were looking at a moment ago, subject 39. This is my demo subject that I put together. And so what I've done basically is I've got my iPhone running here in the background, and I'll just launch the Study Admin application and illustrate how this synchronization works. And so this is my subject. You can see subject 39, and then on the app it also says 39. So I'm in the field, or I'm at home with my device, and I'm instructed to do an upload, periodically throughout the day. So if I tap sync, it's going to physically download data from my device over the Bluetooth mechanism, and then it will upload that data to the Study Admin, and when I click Finish, it will begin processing that data on the Study Admin tool. Well, back here at home or in my clinic, I can actually see these uploads coming in. And so, behind my app here is this portal running, and so I can see subject 39's data being ingested, so I know that a mobile upload happened there. And so you can see they're in sync, and then once that's complete, both the Study Admin web portal and the mobile application get updated with the latest post-processed outcomes. And so anyway, once that's complete, then the device and the web page will refresh and show you those statistics in your views. And so you can see them there, and that's been a great feature for us. And in fact, it's triggering a lot of our partners to want to use that as part of their trial, because they see the benefits of that real-time data interaction. And so Anyway, I just wanted to illustrate sort of how that works and how that might be beneficial for your study. And so there's more to come with the mobile app. What are we doing right now? We're actually in the process of adding historical data. So in the mobile app that I was just showing, in fact, I'll pull it up again. You can see that the data that we had was basically just for that particular day. So Thursday, June 12th, today. We're actually adding historical data, so you'll be able to swipe and view back Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday, or swipe to the right and see your week view. What kind of stats did I have for my week? We're also adding push notifications, and so soon you'll be able to schedule notifications for your subjects. I want it to happen once a day or once every other day. PRO, so these are questions, coming in from that you want to present to your population, patient-reported outcomes. What do I want to ask them questions after they do their upload? How do you feel today on a scale of 1 to 5? These sort of things will be injected into the app very soon. And then the logging of sleep time. So, maybe I want to log my sleep times. What time did I go to bed? What time did I wake up? That helps us score your sleep times more efficiently when you wake up using the sleep algorithm that's built into our tool. Also coming soon, speaking of new things, our new ActiGraph Link device. We're very excited about this new device. It's about half the size of our GT3X. This device emerged directly out of our association with pharmaceutical drug trial partners. The feedback that we got on our current device was that sometimes patients thought it was a little bit obtrusive, a little bit bulky. Also, if they wore it on their wrist, we were replacing their wristwatch, and so, gosh, it would be nice to give them a wristwatch back. And so this device has a screen on it that allows us to display things like the time of day, post-processed outcomes like steps and calories and other things that you might want to show in the device. It also has a built-in wear sensor, which is very accurate in detecting whether or not the device is being worn. And so you can send messages that say, hey, you didn't wear your device enough yesterday. Make sure you comply with that. So a lot of great benefits coming from that new device. Just a side note, we will be at the Drug Information Association conference next week in San Diego, booth 2046. I personally will be there, so if you're at DIA, I encourage you to stop by and say hello and ask me any questions that may come up, and be happy to answer those. So I'm going to pause for questions right now. I did want to mention that if you leave early from this, that there is a survey that pops up after this webinar, and it's literally like 5 questions. If you could just take a moment and answer those, it helps us tremendously in marketing our tools properly and developing our tools. So please take a moment to answer that. And of course, here's some links that may help you out. So I'll pause and take any questions. If you have questions, please go ahead and send those in, and I'll do my best to answer those now. Jennifer asks, is the mobile upload application available for single-site studies that are using Actilife, or is it only available through the study admin tool? Great question, Jennifer. It is available through the study admin tool only, but of course you can connect Actilife to the system and see that data. And so for our research partners, I believe we're offering some special deals for single-site studies, and so please contact sales. They'll be happy to set you up, and in fact, I'll work with you on that. If you have any questions, I'll work with you directly to get it set up and going. So we'd be happy to help you there. Dr. Bassett asked, can ActiSync be installed on Mac? And I knew that was coming. I mentioned it earlier just briefly, but yes, it's coming on a Mac. It's not there yet. It does work in parallels right now, but the Mac application will be out before the end of the year. Amanda asked, does the mobile upload only provide kcal steps and ktac or other measures as well? Right now, Amanda, we just started with those 3 measures. We're looking forward to feedback on that app and hearing back from our customers and how would they like to see that data presented, or what would they like to see presented. And so we're happy to entertain other measures in that. Just no plans as of yet to add anything. But if you have suggestions, please please send those our way. Okay, if you do have any more questions that I did not get to today, please send me an email. You can send the email to support@actigraphcorp.com. They'll be happy to help you. You can email me directly. My email is in the contact list there. Please contact me. Happy to help you out. And we do really appreciate everyone attending today. ActiGraph is a result, the company, the product, everything is a result of our partners and people who use our products, and we're happy to say that we've sort of developed our business around working directly with people. And so we know your time is valuable, and thank you so much for spending almost an hour now, wow, with us. And hope you got something out of this. And this webinar will be posted on our website under the support tab. There's a webinars button. Click that and you'll see this recorded webinar posted there probably by the end of the week, tomorrow, Friday, if not early next week. So thanks again, everybody. We greatly appreciate it. Hope everybody has a great Thursday.